Zion Foster was last seen on January 4th of 2022 at her home in Eastpointe, Michigan. She reportedly left her home with her cousin Jaylin Brazier and has not been seen since. Some of the theories reported by Foster's family was that sex trafficking could be a reason for the 17-year-old's disappearance. It is reported that Jaylin and Foster were smoking marijuana together that night of January 4th of 2022. Jaylin, who is 24 years old, claims that his cousin stopped breathing for an unknown reason while they were smoking. He said that he panicked and decided to put her body into a dumpster because she wasn't breathing. Officials say that Brazier put the 17-year-old in the trunk of his car and drove her body to a landfill. When Detroit resident Jaylin Brazier turned himself in on January 19th, he did so alongside his lawyer. He admitted he had been lying to police, and 3 days later, he was officially arrested on a warrant connected to his cousin's disappearance. Officials charged him with lying to a police officer in a violent crime investigation and lying to a peace officer. He was arraigned on January 24th of 2022. On March 30th of 2022, Brazier was sentenced to 23 months to 4 years in prison for lying during the investigation of Foster's appearance. But in January of 2023, he was released. 2 months later, a search for Foster's body began on May 31st at Pine Tree Acres landfill in Lenox Township. The massive search was planned for a 100 by 100-foot area. Local crews used heavy machinery to remove about 20 feet of material to search the landfill for Foster's body. Originally, officials said that the search could last as long as 7 to 8 weeks. At the beginning of August, crews dug between 25 to 28 feet. Authorities believe that Foster's body could be buried at least 75 to 100 feet beneath the surface of the landfill. Police say that they searched through 3,500 truckloads of trash. The landfill search concluded on October 12th of 2022. On Tuesday, June 13th, 2023, Wayne County Prosecutor Kym Worthy charged Jaylin Brazier with 1 count of first-degree murder of his cousin, Zion Foster. The following video content will be portions of the trial for Jaylin Brazier in the murder of his cousin, Zion Foster.
Judge, can we approach just briefly? Sure.
you have cell phones, you have to remain in your pocket, if they're not in your pocket, and you receive them within defense.
Recording in progress.
Calling case number 23-3818-01-FC, People State of Michigan versus Jaylin Brazier. Appearances, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. Ryan Elsey for the people. My P number is 81329.
Good morning, Your Honor. Brian Brown, P80560, here on behalf of Mr. Jaylin Brazier.
Good morning, Jaylin Brazier. Mr. Brazier, Mr. Brown, and Mr. Elsey. We're starting late today in part because we had a juror who was running late, but also because Mr. Brown was late. I understand you've always had timely attendance, and I can appreciate that. I guess it's a little bit upsetting because we didn't receive a phone call from you. I think you're running late. That would certainly help the process.
All rise for the jury. You may be seated.
I'll make the jury. Mr. Lynn Sullivan, if we take the stand.
Sergeant Sullivan, just for the record, when you wrote on Friday, we were going through an interrogation audio file. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what was the date of that particular interrogation?
It was June 10th of 2022.
Okay. And I'm going to resume publishing Exhibit 54 at the 55-minute mark.
You know, would you tell them no shit? You're not a damn criminal. I'm not. I mean, I'm at the criminal things like stealing, but
Ain't your bag.
when I got to fucking courts, everybody did. Because I learned a lot from the prison. Apparently, a lot of my tattoos are game related. This little guy in here is for Chris. I didn't know this. What's your tattoos? Like a lot of shit. Find out what chummas is. Anyway, so I'm showing my PSI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not like y'all. I don't do shit. This is not my caliber, anything at all. And then everybody's like, how do you get here? I went and told them, how would you do that? I don't think like y'all. I'm like, okay, I didn't do shit. I made a stupid decision out of a fucking reaction. But from my sense, I was doing the right thing. True, that's why I told my lawyer, I wasn't my plea guilty to why I came to y'all now. Over the past there, a lot of shit happened to keep you going like on time. So I can see some respect like you were talking to me. But I wasn't. You just didn't know what was happening in the background of this. Literally. And now I'm here talking to y'all. Yeah.
Almost like I saw that movie. You know what I mean? I hate to say it, but yeah, you're right. You know. So let me answer. I guess the question is, again, there's like a wall of people, right? And a wall like, oh my God, because even we go back and say like, hey, listen, it is what it is. It is what he says. Then we're gonna, we know, like, so we have to, we know, they'll be like, oh boy,
Whether you believe me or not, I don't care. At this point, before they rang me out the other day, I told the people, okay, do my time, go back home. Plan is to go back home, get his military married, get his military in, get back on our feet with that. My only fear is some bullshit happening. Now I go from just doing a couple months, 2 years to, oh, we think you did this, so we're going to give you
right, and that's what
X, Y, and Z.
That's what we're trying to head off, right? We're trying to see like, well, because they're looking, they're digging, there's literally like, I don't even know, 50 people out every day and they're working and they're digging and what are they doing? They're festering, right? They're festering, like, let us find this, let us find everything. Because he did something, like you say, that's the belief. You gotta find that narrative to say, oh, we find her, and where's he at? One of those things.
And if I could, the one thing I would have did different is not pick her up to start with. I'm like, more like she still exposed to weed. Whatever happened would have happened at home, at her house. So the reaction,
Let me ask you
better.
All right, so let me ask you, what do you think? Did anyone ever ask you, like, what do you think happened to her? Me asking you, what do you think
I
happened?
had two hypotheses. She told me, and my fiance, whoever it is, Anna Lee, her best friend, she was over any and everything. I'm confident that. When her mom put her gun on the church right away, on Instagram, she said she was trying to kill herself. She was taking prescription drugs out of the mom's cabinet. I don't know what drugs, I don't know what. But that let me know that she may not handle stresses the same as people further on in life do.
Yeah.
I would assume the only logical thing besides something health-wise, because it'd be a brain thing, a heart thing. She told me, I don't know if it's true or not, she does a lot of times, heart issues, or it could have just been something in her system beforehand, I don't know. But my only assumption is either something natural or something from a drug, whatever, because she smokes with her uncles, she does a lot. Her mom, not to speak about her.
No, we're not taking that.
The image that her mom is, like the mask her mom's putting on, that is not Lindsay Milton at all. This girl's been through some shit. They changed her up in the basement and fed her fucking bread. Zion. We've been through some shit, and that's why we're so close. We've been through some shit that if you were younger and would have came to police, the whole family would have been broken apart. So it's just crazy. Third one, I don't know. I truly don't know, but I would assume it's either something natural or maybe she has something going. And I'm gonna say, opposite, I don't like speaking on things that I
Yeah, you don't. Right, no, I don't.
Or there's things coming out about her, whatever job she worked at, she would go on her breaks and stick to it. Apparently selling herself, apparently doing perks or some kind of e-pill. I don't know what the fuck e-pill is. Whatever spectrum of her lifestyle is. Really, I never got into the business of that. That's not my business. But who knows? I don't know. I don't know what my experience was, what I've been telling you this whole time. That's as far as I can't pull another way out my ass.
No, we're not. I'm just trying to like maybe trigger something like you might remember. Did she ever like in this time that she was at the house? Like you say, you were smoking. Where was? Let's kind of break this down. Where was she?
Couch.
She was.
She walked my house.
Did she come right in and sit down, or did she hang out?
She went upstairs. Her boyfriend called her a couple times. She went upstairs. I think probably on the FaceTime in the bathroom.
Okay.
She went to the bathroom twice. Besides that, we were just getting in the living room watching YouTube, watching black YouTubers, either Corey Kinchin or the other dude.
Is it like on a TV or on a computer?
No, it's TV.
Okay, I know that. Okay.
It's children. Literally, it's
Yeah.
simple as it is. Only thing she said to me throughout, well, not throughout the night, but twice, she said she was tired. And she said she was tired, yeah, she said she was tired. She's 8. She had to get up with a pop tart. She had to do I had to get apple juice, because that's her favorite drink.
How was she previous to getting to the house?
She seemed fucking normal. As she got there, I put it in words. Like she seemed like normal. Her is either high or I would say under the influence of something. Not like I don't know, but more than likely she's either already high. And I don't know. A couple times she's and y'all could find this dude fucking phone records. She's like, Jay, can you go get us a bottle? Speak on us. She'd be her or we were whoever the hell she were hanging around. A bottle of liquor. I'm like, hell no. Fuck no. So her mom later was pretty wild, essentially, whatever it is. But I don't have answers to what the fuck.
No, that's what I'm trying to get to. Like I said, now we can kind of break it down a little finer. Like, so she came in, she sat down, did she have like pre-rolls? Did she brag away? She rolled them off?
I had, they're called camel wraps. They're hemp wraps.
Yeah.
You look on Amazon, look up camel wraps.
Yeah.
They have multiple colors.
Yeah. She had those too, or you
I
had
had
those? Okay.
I gave her a wrap.
Okay.
doing her own shit. Because one thing about me, I don't like smoking on people, so I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and the weed never mixed, she had her own weed?
I don't know what
She had her own weed, okay. Did it smell any different? Did you notice, did anything click like a little sour, or, I'm not trying to put words, I'm just thinking about everything, like, did, you know, you said
At
something.
the time, I remember what the weeds looked like. I don't remember now, though. Mine was straight to dispensary, like I said.
Now, you mentioned,
I can't
whether
believe
it's true or not, like, again, but you mentioned something about purple dots, or, not dots, but purple, you remember that? Purple leaves?
I believe so.
What is that? If it was, have you ever seen that?
I'm not sure. But the strain is the word, the one that I got from Liz was called indica, which also was the strain, not the name. I can't remember at this point. Details are kind of.
Yeah, I can imagine, we've been through,
I can't remember everything.
Okay, all right, but so she smoked, how much did she smoke? Did you smoke
She had
a
a whole
couple
one.
of?
She had a whole one. I had a whole one, and I used my bowl. This is where it gets calorie now. I had this glass bowl, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Pink glass. I smoked a blunt and I smoked mine out of the bowl. She also put her weed into the bowl. After I finished mine, I dusted it out, gave it her, she smoked hers. The rest of her, I believe.
Okay.
And that's about it that I remember right now.
All right, so a blunt and then a ball.
Yeah. And after that, everything seemed pretty normal still. She said, another thing that I mentioned, I believe I mentioned, she did some weird shit. She was, one way she was doing, is that what she's doing?
Gritting her teeth?
Yeah.
Putting her lips together?
Yeah, that's the thing. And then was biting her lip, I'm like, whatever, not being much of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. This was, before she had said that she was going to fire. And after she had popped her, I went up, got some basic Kool-Aid. I can't remember what flavor it was, but it was one of the red ones. Came back, checked my shit, finished video. At least 30 minutes after that, then I'm like, all right, my time to take you home. Bam. Went to shaker.
Now, how was she, when you went, was her head like straight down, was her head to the side, was it back, you remember?
It was not to the side, that was for sure.
Not
That's okay. She was leaning back. I believe she was leaning back.
Okay. And was
She sells her kind of.
Oh, I know, no, that's why we're asking. And again, you know something, you may say tonight or tomorrow, damn it, I know it's something, that's all we're doing, that's what I'm saying, we can, so, what's there, was she just snoring, was she sleeping, what?
No, I thought she was knocked out asleep, quiet. I don't know if she's snoring, but I believe she's leaning back. Looking like she was asleep. So I left her home, I'm drinking my Kool-Aid, watch TV for a minute. Said, okay, I'll take you home. Drive.
She falls,
Shoulder. That's like Zion. And then the tool right to the floor.
fell off the couch?
Yeah, right onto the floor, right there. And that's where the whole sequence, the snowball is going.
What'd you do after that?
Die.
I know that could freak you out.
Exact sequence. And
And some time went by, right? I mean, you said like,
yeah, I had to, one, I'm like, okay, did you pass out? So I'm like, I can tell you before heart. Shake it, okay, I'm moving. And as I'm thinking this, the panic is rising. I'm like, oh my God, please don't be right here.
family.
Everything, that's where everything's buzzing. So I'm like, all right. I immediately think back to my tranquil secure. Okay. See if she's breathing. I lick my finger here, so you can feel like the breeze is fluid. So that's the coming from my nose, or whatever. I'm like, okay.
And what panic? You licked your finger, like you could feel the breeze
Like right at
on the back of your finger?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
See if you feel
Yeah.
or breath.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, she's not breathing. Oh shit, what the hell? Check her pulse. She's probably not dead. Check her pulse. So I check here. And I check here, got my head on her chest. And I'm like, she's fucking dead. Then that's when Annie goes for saying, what the fuck? and made a stupid ass decision.
So what did you do? I mean, did you go upstairs, downstairs? The kids were where? Upstairs? They were sleeping. I mean, I'm guessing, like some time went by, and just kind of, if you can, I mean, were you like running back and forth? Did you go upstairs? Did you go downstairs? Did you call anyone? Or, I mean,
The living room was the focus of the day.
did you, the whole thing they said, like, you know where her phone is, right? They asked you about that?
He had something like some her phone where she had it. I'm like, no, dude. He asked me a lot of shit.
Yeah,
I don't
I know.
remember every question. It was an intense moment.
Sure.
Um,
And I know it wouldn't, and this is just weird because, again, they're working like on the timing, like, because we know she called, like FaceTime, she texted, hey, I'm heading home. And I think what a lot of their issue is it was shortly before, she texted like, hey, on the way, type of thing.
I don't know when she said.
No, I'm not saying it would, I'm just telling like the timeline, we're trying to figure out, and it was maybe 15 minutes later, her boyfriend tried to call and the phone was off, and that kind of matches the records. And what they're saying though is if she's saying I'm on my way, but yet we call her 15 minutes later, the phone's off, either the phone died or someone shut the phone off. And that's why they're trying to spin this.
Okay, I remember you asking this question.
That's
I
why.
heard phone off, and I think they want to say, no, I didn't expect your phone. None of that shit.
Okay, and then now I'm telling you, that's why it looks like, oh, wait a minute, we have to find something, and so I just want to make sure, like, your company, you didn't.
No, I didn't do shit. I didn't do shit. I didn't do shit. Man,
Let me ask you this completely again, I'll shoot out the left field on this. I know everyone's mad, right? And then, like you say, my concern is, it's obviously beyond you too, it's your family, right? I don't want, we're involved now, we're here, and I don't want, something to happen to a child or a lady, right? And I'm not saying it's going to, and that's why we're doing this, right? I don't want that to happen. I want to be able to say, just like I told you, right? Hey, we gotta heal. We gotta heal, and this is how we're gonna heal, right? Have you had a chance to talk to her mother or to get a message? I know she's not the same lady you portrayed.
I have not spoken to her since that day that she had popped up with Anthony out of the blue. I have not spoken to her. After that, I only saw her when I was arraigned. I don't know what it's called, but I was in the court.
Yeah.
And all I said is, and also on a Zoom when I was I took the plea on the March 16th, came in court. Her all of her family, which would be my family, the marriage too, I guess, but her family.
So let me ask you this, if you could talk to her, I'm not saying reach out, don't cause concern still, but if you could talk to her,
I would simply ask,
what would you say?
one, I can't apologize enough for my reaction. It's not, I can understand her respect for the process. It's not going to go. And she said it was enough, it's not going to go.
Sure.
But I just tell her, like, I'm sorry, I don't know what more I can tell you, because if you flip it, it put me in her shoes.
Right.
Most obvious, which is,
Oh, yeah. People always say, make sure you got kids, right? So now you're a dad, right? If got real like you're, fast forward 15 years, your boy's 17 years old, and, something happens and one of his buddies puts him in a garbage container, right? I mean, you'd be like, try it. I mean, it's hard, and God knows we don't want to think like this, but, it would be like, you'd have to question, like, why? Did you do something else? Is there something different? I mean, as a parent, you would have to get,
I've been asked her why a bunch of times. My process is just like, I didn't know what to do. What am I supposed to do? Get a storage unit or put a motherfucker in the face? I didn't know what to do. Like I said, I've never been in that kind of situation.
all right, so let me just asking, and this is like, all of this, I'm gonna
pause the recording at an hour, 12 minutes and 20 seconds. At that point, were there some potential alternatives discussed to what the defendant did with Zion's body?
At the very end?
Yeah, that we just heard.
Yes.
And when discussing those alternatives, was there any mention by the defendant of calling 911?
No.
What were the alternatives that he mentioned?
I believe it was an alley, place in an alley or a storage container.
Playing the video at 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 20 seconds.
Something didn't cross, like, or were you afraid that she was already dead? And like they couldn't do anything, then it looked like they did it, or?
That was my exact thought. I was freaking out. I wanted to get called 911. I'm like, what if they be like, you did this, you did something, which is ironically still what happens. And yeah, this is the outcome of it. Not calling 911. Probably would have just helped the whole situation. Outside of that, I did not call anybody. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't tell anybody what happened. I was fine. My only objective was to talk to Ryan about what happened. Nobody knew what happened. So I'm like, the way I saw that, right? My exact logic to it, I was like, let's say y'all are my family, right? I was like, by telling y'all, I could be putting y'all in danger. These people immediately start targeting my mom. And my mom knew nothing about anything. Talking about shooting up my mom's house, they know my mom lived. A bunch of information knows how they got it. But I'm like I told my lawyer, I was just trying to protect my family the best I could. I don't own guns. I'm not fucking violent. So I'm like, I just had to go with as the sentences came. Yeah. I don't really have much else to it, really.
I got this, because I'm curious to the whole thing, and I'm not being accusatory or anything. This narrative from your side has to come from you and not anybody else. So when I ask questions, I want you to think, damn, he's that guy. Ain't that damn guy. I just literally want to know, what the steps were that you took, like even after 911. What did you, or you thought about on 911? No, they don't think that I did this shit.
Didn't say my next call, step after that, okay, maybe they will take my shit. Yeah, I take my everything.
Yeah, they just started running.
Hey, anxiety, everything.
So after Zion falls over and you take her calls and everything, what was the very next step after that?
I sat down, it's on the counter, I sat down, and I said to me, try to calm down, but calm was not coming, not calm was not coming. So I got the shakes. Logically, I can't give you a logical explanation to it because logic, my normal need, that was not there. It was just reaction. Reaction was the only word I could do. It was the reaction.
And I'm not even asking like why did you? It's just literally what happened after you realized that she was no longer breathing.
I sat down. I believe I cried. Yeah, I believe I cried. I figured out everything they do there. My next thoughts was thinking about my boys upstairs, my mom, and see the whole situation, and then just how bad it looked. Just the story by itself, people don't believe it to be that simple.
No, I mean,
Some people don't believe.
Yeah.
Right. Some people, yeah. Right?
And a big thing.
Right.
So, for instance, I'm married, despite my youthful
That is much of
I'm married, up in age, what they classify as middle age now. My wife, most of the time she don't believe any damn thing. The moment I walk outside the door, I'm about to go get me a piece of something else that ain't her. You know what I mean? So I have to literally break my day down, minute by minute, hour by hour. So she
knows, she feels comfortable, you know what I mean? When you said yourself, you get a fiance, and I'm sure you had to do that shit, went on. Maybe I went to the store, I did this, I was this, blah, blah, blah. It may seem juvenile, to you, but to them, it's their world, that's what, this whole process now, it may seem like juvenile. I'm just coming into this blind. So after Zion was, in your opinion, you said she was really kind of freaked out, and I can imagine how your heart was feeling, how you felt. I mean, somebody that you know and was fucking close to, that kicked it with, that is no longer acting or breathing or talking or whatever, how, they normally were. So what did I know you went into panic mode, but what did that consist of? What was your panic mode? How did she wind up, I guess, in a dumpster or whatever, or wherever it was that she went to wind up in?
I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with it, because I would assume this would be information that I already know.
Well, whatever you're comfortable with, yeah, we don't want to.
It's not like I have a run through information on trust.
Yeah, no, I get it.
do. With my experience before you guys leave, I don't know what's a trap and what's not.
I get it. True. Hey,
Yeah,
You can tell, how about this, we'll tell you what we heard. I mean, I heard two different things. I heard, well, let me say, ultimately, the dump, like the recycling bin, you put her in, I thought they said, like, you should just put her in there, and then someone recently said, like, no, you put her in a garbage bag and then put her in there. So I'm hearing two different versions. Again, that's okay, that's why we're trying to figure out things. We're not putting words in your mouth saying that, because you're clarifying it right now, right?
never.
Okay, all right, at all. About the garbage, they just put her in there. Okay, all right. Okay, no, that's
Yeah, that's some higher.
Yeah. No, I know.
that part, I'm assuming is true, that she wound up in a garbage dumpster or recycling thing, or whatever it was. And you take your time.
Yeah, no, we're not trying to make you, nothing's twisting or turning on you here. We're not digging. So we're just trying to get yours correct. Yeah, no, and I don't want you to say, we're not gonna, like, oh, you said this. Remember, he said A and not and. We're not, we want to hear where you were like, I must have wanted to use the restroom real quick, though. Sure, and drink that water. Can you excuse me for a second, okay? Oh.
Positive recording at 1 hour and 20 minutes and 6 seconds. Skip ahead to 2 hours and 9 minutes.
Someone thinks there's something going on, or my girl thinks there's something going on, maybe, because you're cute, or, yeah, no, yeah. I don't know. And they were saying, like, again, trying to make it, oh, there's that sexual,
Okay.
there's that sexual thing again. We talked about.
My fiance, Warren, she said, and I wish I listened to it. The night she came over, she had ran away. Her mom put a gun on her. She was like, Jaylin, I know you like helping people. I know you want to help her, but she's going to bring problems. I'm telling you, she's going to bring problems. And I initially told Zion that. I was like, that's probably one of the main reasons. I was like, you can't stay here. One, legal problem. Second, I'm not about to cause a problem at home. Happy blood. My girl doesn't fucking, I can't help you more than the extent that I have. Essentially. Zion's like, why is it? Because I'm cute. Conceited, very conceited little female. Sure. Female Zion at the time. That's the, oh, yeah, and I believe there's a text. I texted one day, Zion and Alima popped up at our house. In the conversation, I believe, I was asking if I buy her a phone. Way out of left, what the hell? And I didn't reply. And then, bam, knock on the door, it's Zion and Lima at the door. That's how I know, because Lima drives a Dodge, with a broken Dodge, Cavalier. It looked like a Caliber Cavalier. And that day, my girl was like, Jay, now people are just talking about our house that we don't know. She's going to bring problems here. And essentially, my girl's like, I'm telling you, you can't help everybody, essentially, to paraphrase. And I don't want any of this girl's baggage coming on us, essentially, for the house. That's the best of my memory.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, no, that's, again, it's, you know, and stuff.
What's my file, her number? She would confirm all that.
Yeah. Would she, like I say, and I know this sounds crazy, but would she talk to us? I know you said she's paranoid and
I
obviously.
have to tell her, I have to talk to her, because she's just as skeptical as me.
Yeah, I get it.
And then he was the one that was like, Jay, just go talk to her. Or right by my house, the precinct that I went to, I was really say it's close there. She's like, just go talk to him, baby. There's nothing for you to worry about if you didn't do that. You're absolutely right. I'm going to go talk to him. And ever since that, she's like, I don't know if we can actually trust law enforcement. We would have told them what happened. And then honestly, I give you your phone. I gave him my phone, my email log. I gave you everything. Why the fuck would I do that? If I wanted an arrow pointed at my head, literally, I gave y'all everything. Ladies, like, even though I could do with the detective for the 80% female, and I knew she was asking for DNA, at least my assumption, I don't know. Because you assume something happened. Here, take it. You want a hair, you want skin, I don't care. Take it. I didn't do shit. So she's skeptical. I'm pretty sure if a call did her, she would not pick up.
Right.
But I'll have to tell, I'll talk to y'all already. I was like, just talk to y'all.
Right, it would be a talk, it would be just like us, right? It would be, yeah. I'm not, you know.
And I was talking about earlier that the LSD also she can confirm that what I had I used it was $30 for 2 tabs from the $2,000. She gave me $30, and when I took those 2 tabs, the only LSD I had, I was in the room with her, and I was tripped out like hell. Like, it was strong, it was scary, and I never did it again. Literally, I woke up, I was like, baby, I don't know what's going on. She's like, Jaylin, calm down, don't do this again. And when she said something, I don't remember, but I went to sleep after that. But yeah, I'm just, whenever I get the chance to, I'm just trying to talk to people like, no, talk to y'all. I'm not like the motherfucker that was just talk to who ran just to tell them, well, you ask a question, baby.
Right, yeah.
Because y'all feel it was human as it is, the other dude was just like preconceived notion, and that's what I ran. And I'm like,
to go back to the beginning when we walked in here, I'm just glad it's a hard sale because you're thinking like, here we go again. It's probably what you thought.
I'm like, all right, I expected to come here and ask me the same questions I've been asked.
Right.
No, definitely not. So this was all that happened.
Right. No, I'm glad. Yeah, tell me what I want to hear. You know, I've been there.
And I told my girl, she was like, don't let the employee very actually like, don't let. She's like, I know this is scary, but don't let the situation scare you and just say anything to do with it. She had nothing to do with it. She's like, man, I'm telling y'all, she's such a good fucking woman, man.
I'm telling you, and I'm telling you a real life story where that happened to me, and I felt terrible for the guy. He had nothing to do with that, and he told me because I scared him, and then my ego says, who's he to say I scared him? I'm like, wait a minute, get out of my head and get into his head. It's how he's perceived. So don't ever, yeah, you're right. That's the advice. Don't stand by the truth. And don't, that's all you can do. Don't tell someone something that's not true, right? I mean, all right. So I feel better. But because the whole, when I last thing I heard was that whole LSD thing, and I'm like, and then, there is no LSD. Because, I'm researching LSD, and I'm looking like, overdose? Doesn't happen. Right? It doesn't,
And I literally only did LSD twice in my whole life. First time and second time. First time, it was just one little tab. Crazy, just a piece of paper, but the second time I bought 2 of them. I ate 2 of them, but I was big shit. I told her this guy, I thought I was big shit, and I ain't never doing it again. Because that shit was wild. Whatever it cost here.
Hallucinations, right? That's
man, I don't, it was unhealthy.
I had a friend in town.
Stop at 2 hours, 15 minutes and 36 seconds, and move forward to 2 hours and 29 minutes.
After the 16th, after the plea, the no contest plea, and he was like, I was just asking you. I was like, no, dude, like, you want to, like, I want them to be fine. I was like, I wish.
Yeah.
They not to do that. But because that's a whole timeline just with leaving.
Oh, yeah.
It's not,
Like you say, going back and picking her up.
literally,
You're talking about like, and you kind of relate to this.
there's,
When we talk about, we sit down with murderers and, you know, like, hey, we gotta talk about this, and I always hear it, I'm like, all right, then listen, we're at to this point, but this is the fork in the road, right? This is, you went right, so left, this is the point we can't take back, we can only make better. And that's somebody like shooting someone or something, we know they did, so like, let's get it out and tell your story so someone else does. You know, and like in your version of it is like the fork was like, you know, not answering the phone or, hey, pick me up now, I'm going to the store. And then where your world would be, and hers would be two different, completely different. I mean, that's the path of life that we're sent down.
and that's why I get irritated, because if someone comes with it,
Yeah, I get like that. No, I get like that.
You said something that just sparked.
About the fork in the road and we.
With the iCloud thing.
Oh.
Just pull up the text,
Yeah.
Sarah is near to this.
Sure.
Pull up
I mean,
the messages.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you got to pull up emails. I heard she had at one point, a lot of our conversation was her using an email, she wasn't using numbers. That's how I learned that apparently, I don't know if it's true or not, but you can't track the email. This girl knew a lot. You can't track the email, that's why she only talked to the texting through email. She was texting through a Gmail, which you use to text on, you know, I don't
Yeah.
using email as the iCloud instead of using SMS and shit.
Oh.
But if nothing else, nip that in the bud.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
I literally have told y'all everything, passwords, just everything's on the table.
Yeah, no, it is. I understand, I get it. There was one, again, I didn't read anything on this, but there was some, you mentioned that friend of hers, Alima? And I'll just flat out ask you, like, because again, it wasn't like, I don't know who brought it up, but they said like, the thought was you were trying to kick it with Alima.
Me and Lila were talking every once in a while. I realized that she followed me on Instagram. We started talking on Instagram, just a casual conversation. And I started getting weird. She told me that she had a carpal tunnel, and I also had carpal tunnel. She needed a brace of time, just normal kids kind of shit.
Sure.
And then that gets taken and ran with it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So there's no talk of getting with her?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to y'all.
No,
It was presented, maybe, I don't know.
Sure.
But that path is wasn't
Never.
two different places.
Okay.
I'm gonna stop at 2 hours and 32 minutes and 30 seconds. There was some reference to an Alima at this point, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And based on your role in the investigation, were you familiar with who Alima was?
Yes, it was.
And who was Alima?
I was Zion's friend, close friend. I believe she was 17-year-old female also.
And I know you mentioned some of your background on Friday before you started working with the FBI's Violent Crimes Task Force. Can you remind us what was your role with the Detroit Police Department before you joined the Violent Crimes Task Force?
Previous to Violent Crime Task Force, I worked 13 years at Homicide.
Okay, and during your time at Homicide, were you ever involved with making submissions to the Michigan State Police crime lab?
Yes.
And approximately what sort of percentage of homicide cases would you say entail laboratory submissions in some form?
99.9%, if not 100%, there's something somewhere it's gonna go to the lab.
Okay. And during your time, your 13 years as a homicide detective, were you ever familiar with whether there was an ability of the defense to request certain items to be analyzed?
Yes.
Is there anything standing in the way of that?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further.
Prosecutor, issues?
Good morning. Is it sergeant or special agent?
Sergeant, Detroit Police. Yes, sir. Good morning.
Now, when you conducted this this interview, you didn't have any video, correct?
No, I did not.
Okay. And you brought an alternative recording device to record audio?
Yes, sir. An audio recorder. Yes.
And you would agree that certain things are absent from just an audio recording versus a recording that has video and audio, correct?
As far as audio, no. Everything that's recorded is recorded.
But certain things are absent from a just audio recording, such as video, correct?
Well, yeah, that's
Okay.
completely different video.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I agree.
Absolutely. As far as maybe the mannerisms of the individual you're interviewing, correct?
Yes.
And you would agree during this interview with Mr. Brazier that at certain times he was emotional, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And even at certain points during this interview, you even stated to Mr. Brazier, get a drink of water, gather yourself, correct?
Something to that effect.
Something to that
yeah,
effect, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, would it be a fair statement that sometimes you use deception when you're interviewing somebody in order to try to elicit a response?
That would be fair. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you entailed that particular tactic in this particular interview, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, it'd be a fair statement to say that you never heard any allegation that Mr. Brazier put Zion into a garbage bag, correct?
I did. I don't recall where that came from.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard it was either in Homicide's office. I heard some mention of it,
Okay.
but I also used it as a technique to
Okay.
have him.
And prior to this particular interview, you listened to other interviews that were conducted by Mr. Brazier, correct?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Because the reason to do that is to know whether or not he was telling the truth in this particular interview, correct?
No, not necessarily. The purpose of listening to those interviews was to develop a strategy to get him to talk to us.
Okay. But you will also have to know what he previously stated, just in case he stated something different in your interview to know whether or not he was being deceptive, correct?
He said it'd be fair, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you listened to those interviews, correct?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And it'd be a fair statement that during those interviews, you never heard Mr. Brazier ever indicate that he put Zion into a garbage bag, correct?
Yeah, that's true.
And you never read any type of documentation from a person who conducted those interviews who stated that Mr. Brazier put Zion into a garbage bag, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And there was no statement that was signed by Mr. Brazier that would indicate that I put Zion into a garbage bag, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Now, did you have the opportunity to speak to Lima?
No, I never spoke to her.
Did you speak to any other witnesses besides Mr. Brazier?
No,
So you were never able to, I guess, verify whether some of the information that he was stating about other individuals was correct or not?
that's true.
And your role in this particular investigation was, I guess, not in the inception of the case, correct?
That's true, correct.
Were you directed to interview Brazier?
I was asked to, yes.
Now, as far as speaking to other individuals, is there a reason why you did not?
Yeah, I wasn't asked to.
You wasn't asked to?
No.
Okay. So when you conducting an investigation, do you just do certain objectives that were requested of you, or sometimes do you have free will to do other things?
As
As far as investigations, speaking at witnesses?
Oh, no, it's, I guess, two different pieces. As far as my involvement in the investigation, I don't just inject myself in and talk to people or do anything. If I'm requested to assist, like I was in this case, then I was.
Okay. And do you sometimes offer suggestions during your investigation? Like, hey, I just spoke to him. He said A, B, and C. I think it would be pertinent for me to go speak to Mr. X, so to speak.
I do, but I don't believe that was the case. The role in this case was to talk to him, hear his story, turn it back over to the officer in charge of the case, and let her decide if it was consistent or any inconsistencies with it.
Okay. And did you ever reduce the summary of this interview to writing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you have Mr. Brazier sign a statement?
The statement wasn't done in front of me. It was only an audio recording. And then later I reviewed the audio and then documented it in a written summary. So no, he didn't sign it.
Now, Mr. Brazier stated that he thought about calling 911, but he thought that maybe it was nothing that they could do, correct?
No, I believe that's what he said, yes.
Okay. So it'd be fair that he did mention 911 as an alternative that he thought about during that time, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, no further questions.
Thank you.
Leader,
No, you're right.
any questions from the jury? Seeing none, thank you, step down.
Thank you.
Only have one person talking at a time. Please try to avoid a natural tendency for non-verbal answers such as shrugs of the shoulder, nods of the head, as well as elbows and others, that translate into the record. If there's an objection, please stop talking until it's resolved. Please keep your voice up, and if you would, please take your name and spell it.
Yes, sir. David Yount, Y-O-U-N-T.
Sir, what do you currently do for a living?
I work for the Michigan State Police K-9 unit.
And how long have you worked with the Michigan State Police more generally?
Since May of 1995,
And how long have you been with the K-9 unit?
since 2000.
And what is what's your current role in connection with the Michigan State Police K-9 unit?
Right now, I'm a sergeant within the Michigan State Police K-9 unit.
Okay, and what are your sort of duties as a sergeant in that unit?
I am the head trainer. I was also the K-9 unit commander. Due to the growth of the unit, we brought a lieutenant on. So I'm basically the assistant unit commander for the State Police K-9 unit, also the head trainer.
Okay, and how long have you had that role as head trainer?
I've had the head trainer role since 2004.
And what does the Michigan State Police K-9 unit do?
We were established in 1960. We find people, lost people. We find suspect that flee crimes. We find substances, whether it be narcotics, explosives, accelerants. We find lost people. We also find, we have cadaver dogs that locate human remains. Also human remains such as tissue, bone, and blood. We find those in trace amounts. We also find them in different environments, like water, houses buried, things like that. We have explosive dogs that detect 13 different explosives, but in combination, 100 hundreds of different types of devices. We have accelerant dogs that locate accelerants such as gasoline, kerosene, lighter fluid, lamp lighter fluid. We help assist at scenes where there's fires, fatal fires. Our cadaver dogs also help in that capacity. We have tactical entry dogs where we work with our SWAT team. We have dogs that are trained to assist in those types of calls.
And do you have any sort of specialized training when it comes to being a canine handler?
Yes, sir.
And what is, can you kind of walk us through your training background in that field?
Yes, sir. The basic canine school is 560 hours. It's 14 weeks of basic canine training. You're learning about canine theory, canine behaviors. We're also a unique unit in that we train our dogs from untrained. We call them green dogs. They're not trained. So as a new handler, you are training an untrained canine and you're learning all the principles of conditioning. So we train the dog from the ground up. And give you an example, my first dog was a bomb dog. He was a tracking bomb dog. So we would teach the dog how to track. Basically, the dog taught us. He knew how to track, but we just learned as a handler through repetition on how to read the dog. But then we would condition the dog to odors. So, like I said, my dog was a bomb dog, so we would train the dog to indicate on target sources. So for me, in 2000, it was explosives. We'd teach them how to really condition them how to locate explosives, C4, black powder, different substances like that. So you go through a 560-hour basic canine training course. That's what we do.
Okay. And did you, you personally took that course yourself?
Yes, sir.
And in your current role as a supervisor, do you help train other canine handlers in that course?
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned cadaver dogs. Can you just describe what a cadaver dog is generally?
Yes, sir. A cadaver dog basically finds human remains in different states of decomp. Whether it's, it could be freshly, a person that freshly passes away and somebody tries to hide them, or it can be trace amounts where you have somebody that is killed and there's blood left behind. We condition the dogs to indicate on trace amounts of blood, all the way down to 1 part per million of human blood our canines can detect.
And can you help us kind of understand what's the process like for training a dog to detect the odor of human remains, to create that sort of impression with them?
Yes, sir. So the principles of conditioning for a canine for detector work, whether we're detecting narcotics or cadaver or accelerants, it's the same. The first thing we do is we teach the dog to sit, because the sit is going to be the response. That's going to be the final response that the dog does to say, hey, this is I'm getting as close as I can to the source of the odor. He sits. The last place his nose was is where I look, and that is usually where the substance is. So in our training course, we teach the dog to sit, and then when he sits reliably, when I tell the dog to sit and he sits right down, then we bring in odors. Let's say I'm training him on cadaver tissue, so I'll bring in tissue, I'll put it in a box. It's in a design box that his nose can go in, so the odor is isolated, and I'll have 8 other boxes. 7 of the boxes are empty. 1 of them has the target odor. The dog is directed to the box, and the dogs are selected because they're high drive dogs. They're naturally curious and nosy, right? So we point to the box. The dog smells the box. He doesn't really know what he's smelling, but he goes to the boxes. He goes to the one. He gets to the one with the odor, the tissue, which is a different odor. And he'll usually hesitate. He'll usually stop and hesitate. Well, what is that? And then we say sit. And the dog, oh, sit. Boom. And they'll sit. And then we put a ball with that design box with the hole. We pop the ball through the hole, And like Pavlov's law, we ring a bell, you feed the dog salivates. It's that conditioning process we do hundreds of times that the dog eventually seeks that odor out because he's pairing that odor with his reward. Remind you, we pick a dog that's a high drive dog that hunts and he wants that ball for the prey drive. We do that hundreds of times and eventually the dog is conditioned to that odor and that odor only.
And so how long does it take to take a dog that's green, as you say, and untrained, and get that dog ready to be put into the field and be used as a cadaver dog in the field?
So with our cadaver program, we never have anybody new run a cadaver dog. So it's usually a handler that's already been a handler for a while so they understand the principles and how the dog operates. It's 10 weeks, so it's 400 hours. 400 hours of training, detector work training.
Okay, and the methods used to train cadaver dogs, are those something that you just came up with personally, or is that something that is used more broadly within the Michigan State Police and even nationally?
I would say the principles that we use are worldwide. We've evolved since 1960. Obviously, everything, things change, right? We find new techniques that work, and we use them. Our manual is taken from the United States military, but also from U.S. Customs and a plethora of sources that we vet through. Hey, if this technique works, we're gonna take that little segment and use that for our application. So this process of cadaver has evolved.
And are you familiar with a cadaver dog by the name of Jameson or JMO?
Yes, sir.
And what's your familiarity with JMO?
I was responsible for selecting Jameson. He was one of 14 dogs that were tested to be a cadaver dog, and then I trained him, and he was my dog. I ran him. He's still a cadaver dog.
And so did you went through that 400-hour program with Jameson?
Yes, sir.
Personally?
Yes, sir.
During your training of Jameson to be a cadaver dog, did you have any issues or concerns about Jameson's accuracy in detecting the odor of human remains?
Not at all. He, from the moment we tested him, so he's a Belgian Malinois, which those are a very high drive dog. They're very high drive. They're great dogs. They're great work dogs. They work really fast though. But he was very methodical. Of the 14 dogs, he was my only Malinois. I really did not plan on selecting a Belgian Malinois, but he was very slow, very methodical. And then going into the training process, and then mind you, Jameson is my 13th work dog. He's my 13th dog that I've worked on the road. Seeing this, recognizing how talented he was at it, he made the training really easy. I had zero issues with K9 Jameson.
Okay, and was Jameson eventually certified in any way as a cadaver dog?
Yes, sir.
And I'm holding what's been marked as proposed exhibit 30. Can I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
What is proposed exhibit 30?
That is our certification.
Okay, and is that just a record of Jameson's? Is that his initial certification as a
Yes,
cadaver
sir.
dog? Was that in 2021?
Yes, sir.
And is this the sort of record that is kept in the ordinary course of your unit's business?
Yes, sir.
And is it the regular practice of your unit to keep records of K9 certifications like this?
Yes, sir. Certifications and training documentation. We document all of our training.
Okay. Your Honor, with that, I'd move to admit proposed exhibit 30.
No objection.
All right, it's admitted.
And so Jameson was certified in 2021, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And has he been in the field as a cadaver dog since that time?
Yes, sir.
And after the time of his initial certification, have you had any problems or concerns come up about Jameson's accuracy as a cadaver dog?
No, sir.
Now, have you previously had the opportunity to testify as an expert in the field of canine handling based on your experience and your training in that field?
Yes, sir.
And can you say approximately how many times you testified as an expert in that field?
Several, maybe a dozen.
Okay. Has any court ever refused to qualify you as an expert in that field?
No, sir.
Okay. Your Honor, I would pass for any more years to expertise at this point.
Any questions?
No question.
So, Your Honor, at this time I'd ask to have Sergeant Yount certified as a expert in the field of canine handling.
No objection.
All right. Qualified as an expert pursuant to MRE 72.
Now, hypothetically, I want to ask you a couple hypotheticals, okay?
Yes, sir.
If, hypothetically, there was an enclosed space that had decomposing human tissue in it, that had been decomposing for some lengthy period of time, would that leave the sort of odor behind that Jameson might detect?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hypothetically, if there was just a drop of dried blood right here on this table, and that blood had been sitting there for some time, would that create the sort of odor that would cause Jameson to indicate?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hypothetically, if let's say I died right here, would there be odors emanating from me that might make Jameson indicate the presence of human remains almost immediately?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you deploy Jameson in connection with the investigation into the disappearance of Zion Foster?
Yes, sir.
And I want to ask about a couple of different situations. I want to take you back to January 17th of 2022. On that particular day, did you go to a residence located at 19451 Greenfield in the city of Detroit?
Yes, sir.
And at that residence, did you have Jameson with you?
Yes, sir.
And can you kind of walk us through what you did with Jameson at that residence?
So the first thing I do is I get briefed by detectives on scene. I do a safety walkthrough. Two purposes. I walk through to make sure there's no pets, dogs running loose, cats, things like that. For safety reasons, in case there's any glass, any poisons. You know, sometimes there's rat poison or poisons like that, or cleaners in toilets, things like that. So I'm doing a safety check. And at the same time, I'm also getting a search strategy, getting the layout of the house, of how I'm going to search the house, formulating that before I even get the dog out of the vehicle. That's why I do the safety walkthrough of the target.
Okay. And did you ultimately take Jameson through the house?
Yes, sir.
And did Jameson make any sort of positive indications inside the house?
He did not.
Okay. And did you also participate in the search of a white Acura on January 2019? I'm sorry, January 19th of 2022?
Yes, sir.
And was that located at the Woods Towing in Eastpointe?
Yes, sir.
And who else was there, I guess, at the time that you were there?
I would have to refresh my memory off my report. There was somebody there that gave me access to the vehicle and was present for the search of that vehicle.
And did you draft a report about the searches that you did with Jameson in this case?
Yes, sir.
And if you took a look at that report, would that refresh your recollection as to who was at the vehicle search with you?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Sure.
I'm handing you a copy of your report. Why don't you take a look at that and let me know when and if your recollection has been refreshed as to who you were with at the vehicle search.
Detective Sowers of Eastpointe PD.
Okay. And did you have Jameson with you at Woods Towing?
Yes, sir.
And can you describe what you did in connection with Jameson and the search of that vehicle?
Yes, sir. So the same principle and the same technique that I use for target houses or target areas when we have that capability to do that. I go to the vehicle, I look at the vehicle, I open the vehicle up, make sure I'm looking for safety reasons, anything sharp, any broken glass, any needles, anything that could hurt the dog. Also, I completely open the vehicle up, open the trunks and open the doors. At that point, I get the dog out, basically air him out, and then what we do is, just like in the training that we talked about earlier, is I put a harness on K.N. Jameson that cues him that, okay, now we're looking for the target odor that you've been training, you've done hundreds of times. I put his harness on, and then we search the vehicle. In this particular case, he didn't give any positive indications for human remains in the passenger compartment of the vehicle, but he did get to the trunk of the vehicle, and he gave a positive indication on the lower left area of the trunk where there was some black clothing. It looked like a uniform. He also gave a positive indication for human remains on the side of the trunk, on the inside of the trunk, towards the back.
And did you, obviously you didn't physically observe any human remains in the trunk of the car, is that fair to say?
Yes, sir, it's fair to say. I take my light and I obviously look where his last place where his nose was, and I could not see anything.
Okay.
Anything obvious.
And did you also that same day participate in the sort of canvass of a particular area in Highland Park?
Yes, sir.
And did you have Jameson with you out in that area?
Yes, sir.
And what were you doing, I guess, at that point?
We received information that was a potential area of where our missing person would be located. So we conducted a search. I also remember calling in one of my handlers to assist with the open area search. And Jameson was there to do things like houses or overgrown areas or potentially ground disturbance areas or things that had been dumped, because he can do that, dumpsters and things like that. So we searched I want to say it was about a 3-block area of land, houses. I remember a 3-story large abandoned building. We searched every square inch of that place as well. Just had a lot of debris and a lot of items in the building. And
did Jameson make any positive indications as you searched that area of Highland Park?
No, sir.
Okay, so the only positive indications were in the trunk of the car, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And I want to ask, hypothetically, based on your training and your experience as a canine handler, if a body had been in that trunk for just a short period of time, shortly after the person was deceased, could that lead to enough of an odor that Jameson might indicate on it?
I would say there would have to be some transfer of fluid.
Okay.
Yes, it is possible.
It is possible.
Yes, sir.
And you mentioned your dog was trained to indicate on a certain sort of level of blood by parts per million. Can you explain that?
Yes, sir. So I've always been intrigued by what the dogs can indicate because they surprise you. They do great things, right? So I wanted to put a measurement on it, and I've been working with our laboratories on how to put a number. How could I measure what a dog that can locate trace blood evidence? How could I put a number on it to be able to, I was just fascinated. I was kind of obsessed with it, and so we came up with a process of diluting blood, measured blood, into water, and then we would basically see what the dog's capability was of locating a small threshold amount of blood. And we got to 1 parts per million. And if you know what 1 parts per million is, if you took the tip of your pen and you held it out, it's a speck on the tip of that pen.
Would that be visible to the naked eye?
No.
And if you, let's say I dropped blood into a glass of water, like a full drop of blood, there'd be some change to the water's composition, right?
Yes, sir.
You'd be able to see it slowly turn red to some extent.
Yes, sir.
How about with 1 part per million? Is there any, to the human eye, would you be able to see any
No.
change? And, but Jameson can still detect just that small amount?
Yes, sir. Not only that amount that is freshly placed out, we did it aged 2 weeks. We did 1 parts per million that was aged out 2 weeks old.
And when you talk about transfer of fluid, when it comes to your cadaver dog, are you talking specifically about blood?
Yes, sir.
Is Jameson trained to indicate on saliva?
Not specifically.
Okay, any other body fluid that Jameson is trained to indicate on?
Not specifically anything other than blood as far as fluids.
Okay. And I guess in my hypothetical that I posed earlier, if let's say again, if I were to suddenly die right here, would there be sort of immediate odors that might be indicatable by Jameson?
Well, I'm not a pathologist, but from my understanding over 20 years of doing this, my understanding from the industry is as soon as a human body dies, the cells die with it. And that's how we're able to locate victims in water, is the cells die and they put off a gas. And then that's what the dogs are trained to detect. So once you die, your cells die, and they're dying, they're gassing off immediately.
Okay, and so even without blood being present or outside of my body, there might still be an odor that would be detectable. Is that fair to say? Is that correct, or?
Can you say that again?
So, maybe to make this less about me, if somebody hypothetically passes away, and there's no blood, no body fluid, would their body start emitting that gas that you described based on your training and your experience in this field?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so hypothetically, again, would it be possible if someone had been in the trunk of that car even without bleeding and had been dead, would it be possible for there to be odors left behind indicating the presence of human remains?
That's a good question. What I think would be more possible is there would be such a small amount of blood that's what the dog would be indicating on.
Okay. And so small that you might not be able to see that with your naked eye, right?
See it with the naked eye, or you could potentially miss it with search techniques as well.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Sergeant.
Good afternoon, sir.
Now, Jameson was certified through Michigan State Police, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It'll be a fair statement that there is no third-party agency who certifies these dogs, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And there's not a universal standard as which you can compare to see whether or not Jameson is properly qualified to be a cadaver dog, correct?
No, that is not correct.
Are you saying that there's a universal standard?
There is, there's associations out there that have some standards, the USPCA, NAPWADA. There's also NASAR, there are some associations that have a standard,
Okay.
but they're,
So you're saying that there is a universal standard? Is that what you're saying?
no, they're not universal. There's other standards.
Okay. And that would go to cadaver dogs, dogs who sniff for narcotics, explosive, accelerants, etc.?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just to be clear, there is no universal standard for which you can compare your dog to see whether or not it's qualified, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, has Jameson ever give false positives?
No, sir.
Okay, never?
Never.
Okay. Now, in a situation where Jameson were to detect on a particular area and you yourself didn't see it, or if you use other methods of detection and they did not come up, how would you be able to verify whether or not Jameson's detection was actually accurate?
That's a good question. You'd have to use equipment. You'd have to use equipment, or in training, we know there's a source. We know that there's a source there. We place the source.
Okay.
Okay.
In the real world, where you don't know whether or not there's a source there, Jameson detects on a particular area. You yourself can't see it. Other methods of detection are used, but it does not come up with any evidence. Under those situations, how would you know whether or not Jameson did not give a false positive?
Because I'm relying on his training and the experience of the canine. He doesn't do that.
Oh, he doesn't do that. But if somebody were to come behind you and try to detect and nothing came up, you just determine that they're wrong and Jameson is correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in this particular situation, did you verify after the detection of Jameson whether or not something was discovered in the area that Jameson indicated on?
I had followed up a short time later, and I believe they were still going through the items of the trunk.
Okay. And as far as you know, there was no evidence of bodily fluids that were found in that particular trunk, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay. Now, you indicated that Jameson is qualified to detect 1/1,000,000th of blood in particular water. Now, let me ask you, how were you able to, measure 1/1,000,000th of a particle of blood?
I did not do that personally. A qualified person from the laboratory did that.
Okay. Now, isn't it true at the preliminary examination you indicated that Jameson allegedly could do all the way down to 1 part per 12,000?
I don't recall that specifically. I may have.
Okay, page 196.
And what was the date of that, sir?
The date of that would be August the 9th of 2023. We tried to, line 10. We try to hit all the spectrums. We try and hit fresh blood. So we try to use fresh blood. We try to use aged blood. And then we try to vary amounts to do all the way down to 1 part per 12,000, which is less than a pinhead.
Yes.
Remember stating that?
Yes, sir. And that is because during that process in that program, that's where we were at.
So now you're saying that he's more qualified now. You see, now he went from 12,000 to 1,000,000? Is that what you're saying?
We were measuring that. We were measuring it at the time. That's where we were at in our measurements.
Okay. But today you testified that Jameson allegedly can detect all the way down to 1 part of 1,000,000, correct?
Yes, that's where he's at.
So he's changed, correct? As far as his being able to detect, he's gotten that much better?
From us knowing what he can detect.
Okay, so you're saying that since August 9th of 2023, at that particular date, Jamison was detecting 1 part per 12,000, correct?
At the minimum.
At the minimum. And now you're saying today that he is detecting 1 part per 1 million?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Could it be that you're mistaken? Because you used the same analogy at the preliminary examination that the pinhead that you used today.
1 parts per 12,000 is a pinhead.
Okay.
It's just a bigger portion of the pinhead.
Less than you use less than a
Yeah,
pinhead.
it'll take up more space. 1 part per 12,000 would take up more space on a pinhead, but 1 part per million would take up lesser space on a pinhead.
And did you submit any documentation to substantiate that Jamison can now detect 1 part of 1 million?
Yes, sir. It's in the training dailies. It should be in our training dailies that we document. And this is the thing with canine training is you're constantly evolving and measuring and pushing the dogs, pushing the envelopes of the dogs. And it's just August of 23 was just earlier in his career.
Okay, so within less than a year, he's gotten almost 10 times better as far as his ability to detect blood?
I wouldn't say that it's better, like he's gotten better. It was us being able to measure him. We were going through a process of measuring what they could detect. So as time went on, we decreased that threshold to see what the canine could detect. It just happened on August of 23. We were at 1 parts per 12,000.
What date did he get to 1 part per 1 million?
I would have to look in the training documents.
Do you have that
I
information?
do not
available?
have them. I submitted. I don't have them.
Okay. If
I
you
can
had
get them. I can get those.
Okay. When was the last time you reviewed those?
My training dailies?
Yes.
Well, I'm on light duty right now, so I've been injured. I had major shoulder surgery, so right now I've been kind of out of that loop right now.
And when
It's been
did
a couple
that?
months.
And when did that date take an effect that you were out of that particular field?
Well, I'm still in the field, but the status had changed in January of 23, mid-January. I'm estimating that.
January of 23 or January of 24?
I'm sorry, January 24. January,
Okay.
thank you.
So you stopped in January of 24, correct? So you're saying between August of 2023 and January of 2024, which is roughly 3 months, within that time frame, Jamison went from being able to detect 1 part per 12,000 to 1 part per 1 million?
Yes, sir.
In those 3 months?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but you don't know which month it was, correct?
I don't, not off the top of my head. I have to review my dailies
Okay.
to see those specific.
And you didn't bring those with you in preparation of testifying today?
I submitted those months ago shortly after the prelim. You requested those and I submitted those.
Now, he's unable to detect the manner or cause of somebody's death. That'd be a fair statement, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. He just is trained to detect bodily fluids or the gases that the body lets off after it's deceased, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then when the prosecutor gave an example of somebody, say if they died right here and there, right now,
Yes, sir.
in this very courtroom, their body would be letting off gases, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then Jamison, he would be able to detect that, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and even if there's no blood, correct? He would be able to detect the gases. That'd be correct, right?
That's what he's indicating off of is the gases off the body. There's a source there.
The gases, okay.
Source would be the body,
Okay.
and that's where the gases would be coming from.
Okay, so for one, you don't know whether or not if Jamison indicated if in fact there was actually bodily fluids in that particular area, correct?
I mean, I don't want to argue with you, but I believe that there was human in that trunk, and that's what he indicated.
Right. You believe it,
Because
but
there was no body in there.
okay, but you don't have any supporting evidence or analysis that would confirm that indication, correct?
I would say the 20 years of experience, and then this last part of training where we're measuring the blood, the trace amounts of blood, leaves me to believe that that's what he is indicating.
Okay. So you're saying Jamison is 100% accurate every single time?
I wouldn't say he's 100%. No dogs are 100%. They're dogs. They do dog things. He's not perfect.
Okay.
You know, but when it comes to when we're working, his harness is on, and he is a very sharp canine.
And that I don't doubt. I don't doubt that. Well, my question is, because you indicated that, or you testified to that, even though there was no supporting evidence through analysis from collection of DNA, from items recovered from the truck, that would indicate there was a presence of bodily fluids, you stated that you still have confidence that in that particular indication that Jamison was correct, right?
I'm very confident, yes, sir.
You're very confident, but you're not positive, right? You couldn't guarantee that. Would that be a fair statement?
If I didn't think there was anything there, I wouldn't waste the crime lab and the investigators' time in calling those areas. He gave a distinct final response that he's done hundreds of times. He doesn't do it on food, doesn't do it on anything, doesn't do it on other animals. We proof them off of other animals and other animal remains. That I'm very sure.
Okay. And you called the crime lab, correct?
I didn't.
They were contacted, correct?
Through the detective. I let the detective know.
Okay.
And that's
And is your understanding that the crime lab came out and processed that particular vehicle in that particular area to determine whether or not there was evidence, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, has Jamison ever had a false positive during his training?
No, sir.
Even during training?
Even during training.
So the first day you ever took Jamison out, he never had a false positive?
Well, for one, he didn't know anything. We had to teach him how to sit. He didn't have an opportunity. And so I would put it that way. He really never had an opportunity to give a false positive.
Okay. But at some point in time, after he learned how to sit, you then introduced him to odors, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're saying that when that initial time where you introduced him to odors, from that time forward, there was never a false positive that Jamison indicated on?
I can honestly say, I'll tell you the worst thing that he did.
That's not my question.
Well, what is your definition of a false positive?
A false positive is indicating on the presence of an odor of a substance when it is not there.
And I can honestly say he has not done that.
In training at all?
He has not. I've had dogs do that. I've had every other dog. I've had 12 other dogs that have done that.
So Jamison, is this the best dog ever in the history of
I've seen
cadaver
thousands of
dogs?
dogs work, and I've certified dogs all over the world, and I'm not. He has done a pretty good job.
It sounds like he does not just a pretty good job, but if he's never had a false positive, then that would be an excellent job, a perfect job, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, you testified that usually when the substance is, they sit. You stated that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you use the word usually, are there times where they don't sit?
There's times on a boat when they're on the water where, so we're on these flat bottom duck boats, and we're given an area to search on the water, and the dog will be on the boat, and he's just sitting here like this, like you and I were sitting here, right? And then all of a sudden he'll pop up and he'll start doing what we call a bracket. So it's like he's back and forth working odor, like frantically, almost like he took his tennis ball and threw it in the water. And he'll do these things we call bracketing. And so those are times when I've had the dog not sit on the boat. in my theory is that what happens is they get odor and they think because of the land searches they can get to source, but in the water they can't get to source, and sometimes they won't give the final response because they're like, Dad, get me closer, and so we'll work these patterns, right? And when we get out of a certain area, he'll stop doing the bracketing, and then we go back in and he does the bracketing. So that's one of the few times where he doesn't give that nice, pretty final response. He just, but his behavior is not what it is.
Okay.
And when we mark those areas, we let the dive team know, hey, we've got some indications in this area. The dive team will go in and dive, and that's usually where the body is.
Usually when that's the body. So there's been situations where the body hasn't been there, correct?
It's situations more that the divers miss the body. I've had it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had them actually miss their sonar. They have these very expensive sonars that they'll use, and they're not coming up with anything, and then we'll put the dog on the boat, and the dog will hit, and sometimes they will miss locating the body.
And how are you able to attribute them missing the body versus the dog being able to or indicating incorrectly?
What happens is they'll come out like the next day, and the body will be like floating right there in that area where we told them these indications were, and
okay.
things
But
like that.
it'll be fair that bodies in water, they don't stay in the same place, correct?
They do when they initially go down. When a body initially goes down, after they drown, they go down, right? And so, right when you die, you're gassing off. Like this is that your cells die, you start to gas off, and usually, and it depends on what the person's age, it depends on their body mass index, temperature of water. After it's usually like 7 to 10 days, the body will start to float because of those gases that are building up.
Okay, and it would depend on what type of body of water they're in, the current.
You have the depth, the current, the temperatures.
Okay, but it would be fair to say that a body, if it falls in the water, is not going to rise in the exact same location that it went. It may be 15 feet downstream, it may be 100 feet downstream. It may be in a whole nother area. That'd be a fair statement, correct?
That is possible.
Okay. So if you come back the next day and the body is in a particular area, you can't definitively say if that body was in that particular area the day before. That'd be a fair statement, correct?
It's semi-fair. If you're in an unprotected area, it's a semi.
You said unprotected area?
Yeah, it's in a protected area where there's no current and there's no wind, or the body would just come up.
That would be in a perfect situation where there's no wind, there's no current, then possibly the body would rise in the exact same location that you intended to be in, correct?
That's correct. And I've had them located, like, I've had bodies get trapped under logs, and they miss them under logs, like, because they're down there, they can't see, they're using their hands, they're down 20 feet searching, right?
Okay.
And they miss it on one day, and then the new guy that's motivated to search, he comes and search, and he starts moving logs. Oh, there it is, and it's like, okay, dog was right.
So you're saying that sometimes that there are inadequate searches that are being performed by?
I wouldn't say that at all. I would just say that they're searches that are done, and they redo their searches. That's all.
Okay. One of the ways of verifying whether or not an indication is correct as far as bodily fluid would be to send it to a lab, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And actually, that'll probably be the only way to truly verify it without assuming that the dog is correct. That'd be a fair statement, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're stating that in those particular incidences where the evidence is sent to a lab and it yields a negative result, you would still have 100% confidence in Jamison despite trained professionals analyzing and determining that there is no evidence. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say 100%, but I would lean more towards that there was something there. Based on Jameson, I've never had this happen. I've never had that happen, and I would just,
Okay.
I'm leaning towards.
Do you follow up every single time that Jameson makes an indication on a particular area?
Yes,
100% of the time, if you don't see evidence with your own eyes, if Jameson indicates, you always follow up with the lab to see whether or not there was evidence that was collected, correct?
I don't call the lab, I call the I go through the investigator.
Investigator?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 100 out of 100 times, you always find out the result of that particular analysis. Is that correct?
I hate to say 100%.
Because you said it never happens. You said it never happens where Jameson indicates on a particular area and it will not yield evidence.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think if that's happened with Jameson, and you know, I had a search where he hit on the floor. I followed up. They found blood there on the floor under the flooring. I follow up every single time.
Okay.
He's new in his career, so there wouldn't be as many.
Okay. We're talking about, I didn't mean to cut you off, but in incidences where Jameson indicated on a particular area, was there ever a situation where you checked in with the investigator or the expert who analyzed it, whomever, and determined, and they let you know that there was no bodily fluids or DNA that was actually collected?
Not that I remember.
Okay.
I don't remember. I don't remember that happening. But he has not had that. I mean, the ones that stand out are the ones that he did. That they did locate.
Okay. In this particular case, Jameson allegedly indicated, correct?
Yes, sir.
And to your knowledge, there was no DNA found, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you do remember this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
But yet you didn't cite this particular case when I asked you whether or not it happened. You said you don't remember, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
Yes, Your Honor. In this particular case, would it reinforce your opinion that something was in that trunk if you had heard that someone admitted there was a body in that trunk?
Absolutely.
And did you hear that in this case?
Yes.
Okay. And is that why you didn't see this as a case of a potential false positive?
Objection, please.
May I rephrase the question?
Did you see this case as a case of a potential false positive?
No, sir.
Why not?
The totality of all the information and the way he indicated, just the information and everything, and that's why. And his training and his past performance.
I want to just clarify this issue about the parts per 12,000 versus parts per million. So back in August of 23, when you testified at that point, is it correct that you had only tested to the threshold of 1 part per 12,000?
Yes, sir.
You hadn't tested Jameson to the threshold of 1 part per 12 million at that
That's
time,
correct. Yes, sir.
And so you don't know whether Jameson was able to detect above the 1 part per 12,000 threshold because you hadn't tested beyond that threshold, correct?
That's correct, yes.
But subsequently, you've tested all the way up to 1 part per 1 million, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And there's one other question I forgot to ask in my initial questioning. Is it feasible to use a cadaver dog to search for human remains in a landfill?
It's not. I've done it and almost killed my dog, or I made the dog very sick. It's not feasible. No.
Okay. What are the limitations of being able to use a cadaver dog in a landfill?
Objection, Your Honor. I think this goes beyond the scope of cross.
And to be fair, yeah, I just forgot to ask this question, but he's here.
But I'll also allow some more cross-examination. Go ahead.
What are the sort of limitations with being able to use a cadaver dog to search for human remains in a landfill?
It's dangerous for the dog. It's dangerous for the handler. There's gases. There's gases that are built, methane gases, poisonous gases, and those things is people throw their garbage away, right, it breaks down and it gives off dangerous gases. And we don't do that.
Okay, thank you.
And Sergeant, how many times have you used the dog at a landfill?
That's a good question. Maybe 3 or 4 times.
Maybe 3 or 4 times?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, was it the same dog?
No.
Okay. And you indicated that it could be dangerous for the dog and for the handler, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because of the gases?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are these the same dogs who are trained to detect accelerants?
No, sir. They're a single-purpose dog. All they detect is human remains and nothing else.
Okay. Would it be fair that some dogs are trained to detect accelerants, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and accelerants can have harmful chemicals. That'd be a fair statement?
Not the same as what's on a landfill. Those are poisonous gases.
So you're saying that accelerants are not poisonous gases?
Well, you can put gas in your lawnmower and you can smell the gas and it's not going to make you sick, but you could go on a landfill and it'll make your dog
So if a person were to be in a room with gas fumes, that wouldn't be harmful to them?
Are you talking about gasoline?
You said gasoline.
Accelerant dog?
Yeah, gasoline, yes.
No, that's not for a short time while you're searching. I mean, then I guess we wouldn't search garages and sheds, things like that. But landfills are different. There's raw material. People throw their stuff away and it breaks down. That's what's creating the poisonous gases.
And did the dog are you saying this out of an abundance of caution, or did the dog, when you performed this particular search, actually had some adverse effects?
The dog had adverse effects. I have had 2 dogs that did that. They had adverse effects.
If you could describe what the effects were, just.
Oh, I got very lethargic, almost would lay down, and vomit, diarrhea.
And that's the same with all the dogs exhibit those same symptoms?
I wouldn't say every dog, but it happened to me. It happened to my dog. It happened to my first cadaver dog, Storm, and it happened to my second cadaver dog, Lightning. They both exhibited similar. It's definitely not healthy, and the one I got sick. I felt sick.
Okay, and out of the searches that you did conduct, were those the only 2 dogs that were used?
Yes, we were looking for the Skelton boys down in Morenci, the 3 Skelton boys that were missing. So we.
And how long were you out there for?
It's been so long. We worked that case several days and went into Ohio.
Okay.
Did a lot of land and a lot of areas.
And did the dogs immediately start to exhibit those symptoms, or was it after a period of time?
I don't think it was immediate.
Okay.
But it was enough to know, don't go back on the landfills.
Okay, just give us an estimate, if you remember.
It's been so long, it's hard for me to remember how long we were out there searching.
Okay, was it a long time? Was it a short time? Were you out there for like multiple hours? 10 hours possibly?
Out on land? No, I really don't remember that. It's been so long. We were out there searching, and maybe an hour or less, and then the dog started exhibiting signs
Okay.
of.
So if there's a request given by a particular agency to bring a cadaver dog to a landfill, you would reject that request?
Yes, for the safety of the dog, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. No further questions.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Any questions from the jury? All right, Brooks. Are false positives common with cadaver dogs specifically?
I'm sorry, sir.
Are false positives common with cadaver dogs?
False positive, no, sir.
What happened to the clothes in the trunk? This is black clothes that look like the uniform.
What happened to the clothes?
If you know.
I don't know what happened. I turned it over to the detective and I don't know.
Okay. Any follow-up questions based on those answers?
No, Your Honor, thanks.
Now, as far as false positive, saying that's being uncommon with cadaver dogs, is that just on your personal knowledge of the dogs that you personally trained or handled?
I guess in my ecosystem, yes, it's from what there's not a lot of false positives.
But there are some.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. You can start.
I'm not a bad person because of that. Not my fault. I'm not a bad person because of that. Not my fault. Not my fault. Not my fault. Not my fault. Not my fault.
I'm not stupid.
Well, I disagree with that, sir.
I'm not stupid.
Well, I disagree with that, sir.
I've been here for 4 years and I'm tired of being here and I'm tired of going through all of these attorneys, which are not my fault. But when 100 days have passed and I haven't heard or said or done anything other than try.
Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like and subscribe on your way out, and feel free to leave a comment. Have a blessed day.